Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Thanks for stopping by for another Fiction Friday book review. This week we're talking about Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Now this is another book that I'm sure many people have already heard of because as anyone who watches my channel knows, I love reading, but I also especially love reading books that have been adapted to film because it allows me to compare what I saw in my head as I read the book to what the directors, the actors, and all of the people who worked on the film put on the screen. Not to mention, as many of us know, quite often the book's better than the movie anyway, so you get to have a little bit of extra backstory that you might not see in the film. So let's break this book down. Ready Player One takes place in what could possibly be called post-apocalyptic, but not really. Essentially, the world has kind of fallen into poverty. You have the haves, which is the 1%, and the have-nots, which is the 99%. Not too different than now, right? But the differences here are greatly increased. You have the people up here that are worth hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars, but then you have everyone else who are living in squalor, and most often, if they're living in a major city, they're in a place called the stacks. So essentially what they've taken is trailer parks, on top of trailer parks, on top of trailer parks. So you could have 20, 30, 40 different trailers stacked all on top of each other so that there's enough room to be able to fit all of the population that's living there. Now that's not to say everyone lives in the stacks. There are people that might have apartments and there are people that might have a house, but what we're focusing on in the book, the characters that we follow, Wade Watts, is from the stacks. Now for anyone who's seen the movie or probably saw the trailer for the movie since it was a pretty big deal, this movie also is heavily focused on video games, both past and future. Now, a child of the 80s myself, a lot of the stuff in this book really hit home for me. As many can probably see behind me, I've got a ton of Back to the Future stuff myself, and the car that Wade drives inside the Oasis, which is the virtual reality video game environment, is a DeLorean. And that's just referencing the Back to the Future stuff. There is also on the DeLorean inside of Ready Player One, which you don't see in the movie, the sides have the Ghostbuster logo. I think it's safe to say I'm a Ghostbuster fan too. Lastly, on the front of the DeLorean that Wade drives is the little red light bar from the front of the Knight Rider car, otherwise known as KITT, that just kind of goes back and forth. That you can see in the movie, but it's right near the beginning scene when they're doing the race, and you really have to kind of focus as the car flies by to be able to see the little light going back and forth. So, it's pretty easy to see why this book kind of really touched my heart. But it is possible that all those little kind of geeky, nerdy references to old video games, old movies, old songs that I grew up with caused me to love this book even more than I should have. But my bias for the 80s aside, the rest of the story was a lot of fun too. Anyone who has ever played a video game or anyone who is maybe, I don't know, opened their ears in the last 40 years has probably heard of an Easter egg. Easter eggs are such a big thing that they're not just in games anymore. You can also see them in books, in film. Easter eggs are essentially a little nod to the audience of whatever media you're watching or reading to something else that might be another piece of media or a hidden thing to reference the real world. An example of an Easter egg could be A113 that's in pretty much all, if I'm not mistaken, of the Pixar movies. A113 is a room number at California Institute of the Arts, which is where many of the people that started Pixar and have been making those movies got their start. So it's just a little nod to where they came from inside the film, where you might see it on like a license plate or a room as they walk by. Just a little nod to the real world inside the film that you won't know about unless you know about it. So in Ready Player One, the Easter egg is when the great creator, or one of the two great creators of the Oasis, the VR game world that everyone kind of lives most of their life in and even go to school in, James Halliday, dies. And as part of his will, he puts this Easter egg inside of the Oasis that has rules to follow, where if you find 3 keys and get through 3 challenges, you will be granted essentially James Halliday's entire estate, which is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And they will be the sole owner of gregarious games, or gregarious simulation systems as it becomes known as. So that becomes the entire book. The motivation of every character in this story is to search this gigantic, vast universe of the Oasis with several planets, many of them themed with such like the Lord of the Rings. And they even have a school planet that has hundreds, if not thousands, of individual schools on it that are all identical, called Ludus, for anyone to be able to go to school virtually rather than in the real world. So all of these people that go into the Oasis on a daily basis, and many that just hear about this and decide to jump into it, the story revolves around all of them. All of the people who are hunting for the egg in order to get all this money and to own gregarious simulation systems. Now, to step past just the hunt, the Gunters, as they're known, egg hunters, are also trying to stop Innovative Online Industries, which is a competitor of GSS who wants to own GSS and everything behind it so they can become the biggest company in the world. And these are the bad guys that we're trying to stop. Now, all of this can be found just by reading the inside of the book jacket, or, I don't know, having already seen the movie. So this is probably not anything I'm telling you that you don't already know. For those that have only seen the movie, though, you will learn from the book that the challenges in order to get to the egg are vastly different. That's probably because in a movie, it's not exactly exciting to watch somebody just stand there playing a game. Not all that exciting, right? Which is why you open with that car race and, King Kong and everything coming down trying to smash your car. So each of the challenges are different. It's also very different how Wade gets his little one-up quarter that is given to him inside the movie, whereas in the book, he happens to just stumble across it and earn it by playing a game. One of the challenges also, the key opens, is entering a virtual simulation of the movie War Games. Now, it would be a little bit difficult for them to do a Ready Player One movie and then inside that movie show the entire War Games movie as somebody who is embodying Matthew Broderick's character tries to get all of his moves and his lines from the entire film start to finish correct in order to beat a challenge. So it's understandable why the film has a few differences here. Regardless, Ready Player One is probably one of my all-time favorite books, having finished reading it. Coupling that in with the film, which has a fantastic display visually as to what this book can be, even though it's made some major changes to it, is still a fantastic book. I would say that if you're a fan of the film, read the book. There are some things that happen in there much better for the character development and are a lot more fun to imagine in your head that they aren't able to do on the screen. For instance, Wade Watts becomes an indentured servant to IOI and has to escape from that. But he also did it on purpose. You have to read the book to find out why that happened. But in the end, let me know what you thought. Have you read this book? Is there anything that you really enjoyed about it or maybe even hated about it? Or do you actually prefer the film over the book? Let me know in the comments. Also, let me know anything else that you think I should be adding to my list of books to read. So I want to thank you for stopping by my channel. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.